And welcome to Down Under World Denizens, episode 4. Hey, we'd really like to say thank you so much for tuning in to episode 4. I can actually report to you at the time of recording that our episode 1 has just finally clocked over 300 downloads. Episode 2 and episode 3 have also clocked over 200 downloads. So for everybody who's been listening to all 3 episodes and is tuning into episode 4, thank you so much for staying with us on the journey. It's another jam-packed episode, this episode, and we are going to have some crosses. We've got an interview, we've got some live action, we've got some commentary on. Yeah, it's fantastic. But I wanted to kick off with our regular commentators and just ask them a key question. The key question is, under the current 2020 rules, there's a bunch of stars of different power levels. Which star player would be your favourite? Let's cross over to our regular commentators now. What do you reckon? Wilts, Millsy, who wants to jump in first?
I'll let Wilts take this one.
Well, being that I've used star players more than Millsy has in recent history, I'll jump in and just say that Fungus the Loon's definitely the one that I've hired the most frequently with more than one team. So Fungus can definitely get a lot of work done on the pitch, and he puts a lot of fear into the opposition, so he can control the board space pretty well. I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but his secret superpower is keeping trolls in line because he can help them with their really stupid if they're standing next to him. But it's also closely run. Farag Gulchur's right up there as well. And my most disappointing star player performance so far has been Acorn.
Interesting. All right, Millsy, off you go.
Okay. Well, my hot take is the only good star player is a dead star player. I'm not a big fan of the star players in the 2020 rule set now, mainly with the amount of teams that they can play for. They're on a team that they shouldn't really be on, in my opinion. They're providing something to a team that team doesn't have, and I prefer to play a team for what they are. Having said that, I have used a couple. I've used Acorn, and he is a beast. I loved Acorn. I used him in a practice match and was just taking down big guys left, right, and centre. But the one I'm looking forward to after this year of my year of lustry and teams that I'm playing in tournaments, I'm looking forward to playing Gnomes next year and would really like to have a go with Rodney Roachbait.
Yeah, I do think he's almost a must take, isn't he? He's 70k. He brings some pretty good stuff to the table. I think if you can't beat them, join them. So I was one of the early people who thought, we think these star players are a little bit broken. About this is before the special play guide was released with the megastars categoristic, or maybe it was just after that. I can't remember. But Ausbowl State Champions 2023, I was representing the ACT, and I decided to take Old World Alliance with Griff. Now, I don't know whether it was just me not yet getting my head around how to play with that well, or whether I just didn't particularly have things get together for me. But I found it was like battling uphill slightly against the other teams, and maybe that was the clever tournament rules pack. But I found that a challenge. So my favorite is definitely not Griff. My favorite is probably Zolcath. I ended up coming third at the Bloodisloe Cup last year with Zolcath, and I really liked what he did. I don't feel he was broken with having strength 5. He doesn't have block, so he's not completely over the top. And I just liked what he did to diversify the Pro Elves of the Elven Union a little bit. So yeah, hey, we are into our news section now. Let's cross over to news, and we'll run through our 4 spheres. Millsy, tell us about Gobble. You've wrapped up the previous season of Gobble. Yeah, where are you up to?
We are, and last weekend we kicked off our round 1 of season 2. Unfortunately, there was a couple of rather large events here in Bundaberg, so not everyone could make it. But we've got a couple of matches in, including a new player to the league who sort of was on the sidelines watching through last time. So I got to run. I'm running a fairly depleted necromantic horror team. I like the team, but I didn't want to take a full team and sort of, be that guy that takes it. So I'm going with half of the positionals. Brandon, the guy I played, was with Corn and managed. He played it really, really well. I tried to frenzy trap him, and he just didn't get sucked into it. So my game ended. I did end with a win, 1-0, but he's a fairly solid coach right off the bat. So it's onward and upward from here for Gobble.
Yeah, and I mean, to be able to control, your urges as a corn coach and manage to maintain pitch control is a big deal with corn. It's certainly not something I certainly wouldn't be recommending playing corn as a rookie coach. That's for sure.
No, but I believe he might have played a little bit online.
Why are you playing corn if you're exercising self-control? Come on.
Yeah. And Wilts, fill us in on our local league, our Gladstone Emerald Rocky Bundaberg Blood Bowl League, or Gerbil. Yeah, where are we up to?
So we've had a fairly quiet month and a half just because there's been a lot of things going on around this place, but we're putting the hammer down and closing off the round 6, heading into playoffs starting in the next 2 weeks. So we've got a good spread of coaches to round out our top 8 heading into playoffs.
Yeah, although I heard that Clan Eshen put out a hit on the Skaven team, and they fled, escaping the Skaven assassins. Is this true?
Well, there's one Skaven team leaving, but there's another Skaven team entering. So
okay.
The Children of the Horned Rat will still be represented in the finals.
Yeah, nice. But yes, unfortunately, one of our coaches has relocated down to Brisbane. But I guess our loss will be one of the leagues going down there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe he's looking at the North Brisbane Blood Bowl League. I think that's the sort of area he's moving to. So I know you guys have put him in touch with some people down there. I know Liam, the organiser of the Big Ipswichki, which we're about to talk about soon, he jumped straight onto it when he found out that he was moving, and then he's given him some numbers and some places to go to. So, yeah.
Good on him.
And he's a good coach. He's picked up the game pretty well in his first season. He'll be an absolute terror down there with this Skaven.
Yep. Hey, there's something else coming up pretty local to us, though. Both Millsy and I are running our tournament in 3 weeks' time. Millsy, give us a good plug, if somebody's listening and still can attend.
We'll take any and all comers. Yep, the Beach Party Rumble will be Australia's first ever beach bowl event. We've got some exciting news coming up. I might sort of reveal a little bit later with our pitches. They're in development, and there's a bit of an upgrade. So really looking forward to that. I've had recently a son of one of the attendees has actually signed up, and apparently he's 8 years old, but Dad's been training him up. So yeah, we're going to have a young'un. So the next generation of Blood Bowlers will be beginning right here at the Beach Party Rumble.
Yeah. I think he might be a little older than 8, but he's going to have that moniker of the kid for sure. And
for sure,
I think that's going to be great. Yeah, and look, you get some fantastic coaches that come out of that title. We talked last episode about, or maybe even it was with our interview with George coming up. We talked about Cullen Russell, son of James Russell Wills, and his recent success. So stay tuned to our episode for that. But in New Zealand, I know one of the best Blood Bowl coaches in the Isles is Mushroomy, who is also a graduate from the kid.
We've got to start somewhere, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Give us this pitch update. I'm slathering.
Okay, so originally when we had our tournament, I got you to design the pitch for me. We were going to get it printed on Tyvek, which is kind of it's a more durable than paper sort of thing. Then we went, no, you know what, we need more durable than that. We've gone to vinyl. And the latest news is we will be on neoprene. So fantastic news when Bab said, hey, look, we've got this opportunity. It's a bit more of an outlay for us, but I think you guys, anyone that's attending, and we will have Beach Party Rumble pitches left over. So I'll let you know after the event how many we've got. They will be for sale. Unfortunately, with the extra cost to purchasing those, they will go up. I think we're going to go to, I think we've settled on about $25 dues for a full neoprene beach bowl pitch.
$25 dues. What a bargain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm with
Exactly.
Wilts on that.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. So, like, I was pumped for the first two pitches that we would have had, but to have it on neoprene is just, you don't have the problems of it, sliding around, and it's also got a little bit of weight to it. So, if you're in an area that's got a bit of wind, or the fans or air conditioning are on, it's not going to blow up and move around. So, yeah, it's going to be win-win for everyone.
And it's got that tactile effect when you're moving miniatures around too. It's got a little bit of give to it, and that's quite lovely. I mean, yeah, the pitch is only a 2 mil neoprene, but still, I think, what's not to love about that? That's fantastic. It's an upgrade to the upgrade.
Yeah.
Likewise. Well, I've got a couple of spaces left in the Great Barrier Biff. We're currently sitting at 28 coaches, which is still a good number. I'm really happy that at least I've got a nice even number of coaches coming to the Biff. But if you're listening in and you're thinking, Blood Bowl on a tropical island over two days, 5 games. Look, I can shoehorn you in. I've managed to keep at least one room still up my sleeve. So yeah, get in touch. It's not too late, although it very quickly will be. I've taken about 6 roster submissions so far. So rosters are coming in. It's getting towards too late. But if you're interested and you're listening in and you're thinking, I want to see if I can get in there. At this point. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Hey, there's some other things coming on around the state. One of the things I really wanted to just give a big shout out for is coming up is the rebranded Blood is Low Cup, now called the Big Ipswichki, which is kind of a bit of a shift or play on words of the Big Lebowski, which is a movie I've never seen, actually. But Liam Madrell has been organising that with a whole committee from the Ipswich Blood Bowl Association, and there's a sevens event happening on the Friday called the Switch Sevens, and then a 2-day tournament, 5 games. And I'm really delighted to say Liam's been piloting a few innovative ideas that I've had, and he and I have bounced ideas off, and both the rule set for the Big Ipswichki and the rules for Switch Sevens are ideas I've personally percolated and he's run with. So I'm really delighted about that. The Big Ipswichki has tiered star players. There's been a bit of chat about that globally speaking. Liam's not afraid of trying something new, and I'm delighted to see he's run with some modelling I've done on that. I'm really keen to see how that rolls. Likewise, the Switch Sevens are going to be run using full Oz Sevens rules, something we've revised. We played it in 2022. We decided some tweaks were needed. I've made those tweaks. It's happening. Switch Sevens. So, yeah, really excited about that. The venue is still to be confirmed. They had a venue locked in, but there's been a little bit of a drama with the venue. So just stay tuned on that. But they are definitely taking regos. $60, I think it is, for Big Ipswichki, and another 20 for the Switch Sevens. I'm planning to be there.
I believe also the Switch Sevens. There's also some sort of pitch involved for that too. Do you know anything about that, Babs?
Yeah. Yes. Once again, my Photoshop skills will be on display. I can't help myself. Whatever's best for Blood Bowl, I'm there. I'm doing it. So yes, I put my hand up. I'm making some pictures. So I've got some other interesting news. Nationally speaking, there's some big tournaments coming up. Big V is coming up. Last I looked, they were at close to 170 regos. I'm not sure where they're up to now. Maybe we need to chat to Johnny Wilkinson himself and find out. But the other one is Southern Trike Bowl has announced their dates. I believe it's the 12th and 13th of October in Adelaide. So there's 2 big events nationally speaking. Southern Trike Bowl in South Australia, Big V in Melbourne. Yeah, if you're available for either of those, get along to those. Globally speaking, I just wanted to have a big shout out to somebody who was going to be our room buddy, Danny Pickler,
Right.
Piano Dan. He went over to the US and played in the US Open in Tacoma and won the thing, for goodness sake. So I think he had a draw in his last round, and he was sweating on the results when I spoke to him. But yeah, he pulled it off. And not only did he walk away with winning the entire event, he also picked up Best Painted Team. So how about that? One of those coaches who's not just a good coach, but a good painter as well. Wow.
Sounds like we were lucky he didn't come to Cane Toad.
Oh, no, look, the man's a legend. Catching up with him would be fantastic. And of course, we were sending our Eurobowl team. We'll talk about that with our interview with George Christadolou very soon in this very episode. But yeah, we've got some other exciting news. We announced it last episode with James Russell Wills that the Aussie Bowl State Championships next year is going to be held in the Auckland region. We've got exact dates and exact venue, thanks to James. As mentioned last episode, it's at the Mission Bay Tap Room in Auckland on the 27th and 28th of September. But if you aren't representing your state in a formal team, not only will you be able to still play, you won't be called the Open. It's actually going to be the Greenstone Cup, which is a significant event in its own right. So, yeah, really excited for that. Really looking forward to getting over to New Zealand. I'm definitely going.
I'm heading over as well. I'm 100% going. Whether I make the team or not, or whether I play in the Greenstone Cup, I'll be there playing.
I'm definitely aiming to be there if I can be, but there's too much up in the air at the moment for me to be 100% confirmed.
Right. Well, normally aeroplanes are up in the air, so that's normally how we get there. So that'll be good.
Oh, I don't know. You could take a sailboat if you want to take 6 months on a leaky boat.
Only if you... Isn't that Split Ends? Isn't that a Split Ends song?
I believe it was.
Yeah, I think they got so sick of singing that they swore they would never sing it again. Speaking of New Zealand next year, we're really keen to head over there. I'm personally busting my backside to try and make the state team. There's no guarantees. And yeah, I'd really like to be a part of what goes on in the actual state teams. Although if I don't, as I said, all three of us are really keen just to be a part of the Greenstone Cup. But in my eagerness, in my excitement to see that event be absolutely majestic, I have maybe put a couple of noses out of joint, being so excited to see the event be as good as it possibly can. And so I just wanted to go on the public record of just saying that in my excitement to see New Zealand field 2 state teams, I may have offended a couple of people, and I think I've said it's just not cricket, which is a very strong allusion to a particular event in 1981 where, in a very low deed indeed, an Australian bowler, I believe it was Trevor Chappell, bowled an underarm ball as the last ball in a one-day international, and therefore prevented New Zealand from potentially winning that game with a 6. So, there was a big allusion to me to be a bit ironic in my statement about it not being cricket. And I wanted to just say, hey, if I put anybody's nose out of joint, all I'm interested in seeing is the Aussie Bowl State Championships be brilliant, completely brilliant. And I approach it from the perspective that more New Zealand teams is more better, to misquote the Bonehead podcast. Yeah, I just want to say, hey, it's only out of enthusiasm that I've said these things. And so as part of my apology, I just want to say, hey, guys, if you guys want to come to our team's tournament that I personally run in 2026 in sunny Rockhampton, that's the Tournament of Champions, you wouldn't be eligible for the main prize, which is only going to go to the team from a league in Queensland. But if New Zealand can stump up a team for the Tournament of Champions, I'll give you guys free entry, I reckon free entry. All the swag comes with that free entry. Yeah, I'd love to see a New Zealand team stump up to Tournament of Champions. And likewise, for any interstaters that really want to get up to Tournament of Champions, yeah, we're happy to have you. Happy for you to compete. You'll still be in running for a bunch of the prizes. But the main trophy I'm planning to get up is the whole point is that the Tournament of Champions is about which league in Queensland has the best coaches in it. So it's a bit of a bragging rights there. There'll be a big trophy for that. So that particular trophy will have to go to a Queensland-based team, but that doesn't mean you can't come along, have an absolute blast and pick up a whole bunch of other awards. So, yeah, free entry if you guys can muster a team of 3 coaches for Tournament Champs 2026. Have I grovelled and apologised enough, Wilson Millsy?
I think you've made it.
I don't know, buddy. I think you can do better than that.
Yeah, look, yeah. I just want to see, Blood Bowl go from strength to strength. That's all I'm interested in. Hey, speaking of Blood Bowl going from strength to strength, we're going to cross to somebody who has done exactly that down in New South Wales. We have the absolute privilege of interviewing George Christadolou. So why don't we cross live to him now? And we are now live with George Christadolou. George, welcome to Down Under World Denizens.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, if our listeners aren't familiar with George Christadolou, George has been this amazing Blood Bowl legend who has really helped rekindle Blood Bowl in particularly the Sydney region of Australia. There wasn't a lot going on when COVID came and decimated a lot of things, and George really decided to lead by example and ran, I heard on another podcast, something ridiculous like 14 tournaments in a year. Is that right, George, or some ridiculous number? What was it?
Not quite, but it was 7.
7.
It was 7 in a year.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, an enormous number.
That's still a pretty good effort, mate.
Yeah, I got burnout after running 4 in a year, so 7. George is also a tournament organiser of Sydney Bowl. There's a tournament series that he is the tournament organiser coordinator of, and we're going to drill into that. But first, George, I wanted to open up, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got into Blood Bowl?
Yeah, thanks. So for those that don't know me, that my NAF handle's GeorgieChristo. I first started Blood Bowl in the mid-90s, so 3rd edition. I never played any other tabletop games prior to Blood Bowl. I had some friends in high school that played 40k and fantasy, and I was kind of interested in fantasy, just more so looking at the miniatures in the army books and White Dwarf. And my brother came home one day with, from what I recall, some sort of a pamphlet, some sort of advertisement from a game store showcasing Blood Bowl. To be honest, I didn't think it didn't look like a great game, but I went along with it because opportunity just to bond with my brother, because I was in my later years of high school, and yeah, played it ever since. I mean, obviously finishing high school, going to uni, and then through those years of uni craziness, getting married, having kids, there was a hiatus, but I rediscovered it in 2012. I found Eucalyptus Bowl via the interwebs, but I didn't play my first Eucalyptus Bowl, my first tournament, until 2013, and haven't looked back since. It's been great.
Fantastic. I think that's where I first met you.
Yep, I think so.
Excellent. So my question is a 2-part question. What is your favorite team of all time, and what has your favorite team been most recently?
The answer to that, for those that know me, is the same for both. So it's Underworld. I originally started off as an orc player, and the way we used to play Blood Bowl was very agricultural. Pick the ball up with a thrower, run a whole bunch of players, made no difference what they were, into the opponent's backfill, and long pass, long bomb. But when I started playing tournaments, obviously there was a whole lot more skill than just picking up the ball and throwing it downfield. I played a variety of teams, but when the 2020 rule set came out, I tried Underworld just because they seemed really different. That their roster had changed quite a bit, so it was quite diverse, and just fell in love with them. So yeah, I've only played Underworld since 2020.
That's dedication, mate. That's a good effort.
That's like me with my Slan.
Yeah, what's your opinion on them losing swarming?
I think it's a very positive move. The nerf has had an impact. I have played them since the nerf. Yeah, so it is impactful. They're still a very viable team, but it definitely needed something.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in the same camp. I think what we'll see now is you'll know who the true Underworld coaches are, because all the Johnny-come-latelys that were just playing them because they were overrated will move on to some other area like vampires or Amazons.
Yeah. So I'd even go as far as saying that having the bribery and corruption rule should be dropped as well for Underworld.
Having cheap bribes, you think, is
It's a contentious topic.
Yeah, well, it's interesting.
Without swarming on the table now for them, how many snotlings are you going to run on your rosters?
Where I can, probably maybe 4, but when I'm able to sneak in a star player, probably still use the 6 just to sort of maximize space for a star player. But having the extra goblins does make them quite a lot more robust.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, the biggest impact is defensive setups.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of star players, you do have a favourite one that you take with your Underworld. Is it that's your favourite star altogether, or is it just for Underworld? And for our listeners out there, who is that star player?
Yeah, it's Morg. So I play Underworld in League, and I purposely try to use a variety of star players. So I do like the different star players. Whilst I do like star players, I'm also not so much a fan of what they've done, what Games Workshop have done to the star players with the access across multiple teams that won't usually take that type of player, and also the +2. Even though, admittedly, yes, I do take advantage of the +2 with Morg, but Morg has been a favourite of mine since 3rd edition.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, it's interesting. More can be win or lose, depending upon how that +2 Mighty Blow goes.
Yeah, 100%. At the recent Eucalyptus Bowl, he definitely let me down in a couple of games. I was leading the Cas count coming into the last round, and in the second half of my last game, there was a timeout, so there was end up being nine turns. Morg blitzed 9 times. I also fouled 9 times. I only needed 1 Cas and nothing.
Wow. Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of, I know you've run successfully leagues down there in Sydney, and you've said your love of tournament. Which do you prefer, league or a tournament?
Definitely tournament. I did prefer leagues. I like the narrative, the storytelling with the league, but I do find it quite challenging finding the time to commit to leagues, even though I am playing in a league at the moment. But it is quite hard to find the time. With tournaments, it's a lot easier from a time perspective. But also, I am fairly competitive as well. So I do like that environment that a tournament provides.
Excellent. So you've been playing the Blood Bowl 2020 rules pretty extensively. What is something you would like to, or given the opportunity that you would change about the current rules setup? And are there any teams you think you would like to see more of or less of, or a team that doesn't exist that should?
Yeah, a couple of things of note. So first and foremost is passing. So there's a few elements in passing. So get rid of wildly inaccurate.
Hooray!
Yeah,
that's pretty common.
100%.
Yeah. Look, I do acknowledge that the vanity passes was quite impactful, particularly in league. But I don't think wildly inaccurate has fixed that. Also, the various little changes. I am a fan of the passing stats, but the passing skill table is pretty bland.
It does need some work, yeah.
It does, yeah. Also, the nerf to Hail Mary. Again, I do support it changing for what it used to be, 2+ and you get the ball away. But at the moment, it's a non-skill.
Yeah, which plays into what you were saying before about you originally played orcs and you used to have an orc thrower
Yep.
and you'd actually hurl it. That was one of the advantages of having an orc thrower was taking Hail Mary pass. Then it didn't matter if you were massively separated. You get that cage down the field and then hoik it down there with Hail Mary pass.
Correct.
Now who on earth's going to take Hail Mary pass unless it's a random? Like who's going to take it? It's I think it's a really bad call in the FAQ personally, but anyway.
Yep. So that definitely be the first one. Star players as well probably need to look at the +2 as I've mentioned.
Good on you, George. We love it. I've been waiting for one of our guest commentators to say that they would change passing. So far, no one has. So thank you.
Look, it's still viable for some teams, but it's only very few teams that can that have it as a viable tactic. Oh, and in terms of additional teams, so the remaining 2 Chaos theme teams, I'd like to see them coming to the game. So Zinch and Slanesh.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of speculation because obviously there's the ability to take a favoured of Chaos chosen team, I think it is, and choose that alignment. And I think, can Norse do that too? Can they choose an alignment of Chaos?
Norse can only be Khorne.
Khorne. Yeah, so it's definitely written in the rulebook, but there's no team for that yet. So yeah, it looks like it's begging for that. It'll be interesting to see what they do there.
If they bring back some star players like Lude Whiparm, he's definitely a Slaneshi star player for sure.
Yeah. Now, George, we're an Australian podcast. We like to emphasise our Australian nature. One of the things we like to talk about is just things about being Australian, and one thing that Aussies love is food. So, what would be your favourite meal if you're choosing a restaurant and choosing a meal somewhere? Where would you go? What would you pick?
Not sure about a restaurant, but in terms of favourite meal, it's got to be lamb on the barbecue.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Or a pub meal, I guess, what you go to if you're just having dinner on a Friday night down the pub.
A rump steak with mushroom sauce.
Very nice.
Yep.
That's my pub meal of choice.
Yeah. I reckon you and Raven should get together and have a lamb meal together.
Yeah, he from memory, he said his favorite meal was roast lamb. I don't mind a roast lamb, but there's something about barbecue lamb, and because I've got Greek heritage, we love our lamb. So cooking the lamb over the barbecue, marinated in olive oil, lemon, oregano. Now watching it spit barbecue for an hour and a half or so. Yeah, that's definitely my go-to.
Oh, you've sold it. You've sold it. I'm salivating.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I mentioned it earlier that, you really stepped into the Sydney Blood Bowl scene. Tell us a little bit about the Sydney Blood Bowl scene, and particularly, let's just focus on league for a moment. What can you tell us about what is currently going on in Sydney in terms of a league scene? Now we're in a post-COVID period, although that's an arguable position to make, but let's just say post-lockdown period. What can you tell us about Sydney League?
Yeah, so Sydney has a single league. There may be some backyard leagues, but essentially it's one Sydney-wide league, the Sydney Blood Bowl League. It's run by Clayinfinity, so it stretches the full expanse of Sydney, so all the way up to the Hawkes River, down to the Shire, out west to and including the Blue Mountains. There's about 40 odd coaches this year, and given the size and expanse of Sydney, it's broken up into 2 divisions, so mountains and coastal, and then each division is broke up into a couple of conferences. Maybe I've actually got those the other way around, 2 conferences and 2 divisions, so north, south, east and west, so that you play within your conference and division. And this year it was Swiss style, and then the top, I think it was the top 3 or top 4 from each, then made it through to the playoffs.
You're saying league matchups were done on a Swiss system?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I've not heard of that before.
And previously it was round robin. The problem was that the numbers in the total league were such that we did have uneven numbers of coaches within each conference and division. So instead of trying to balance every conference and division, noting that Sydney is quite expansive city, it was really centered around people's location where they lived, and then Swiss style within that conference division. Worked out really well, actually.
Yeah, it's good. Sounds awesome. And obviously, if people want to join that league, if they're listening to the podcast and they're not currently connected, would it be reaching out to Clay? Would that be the best?
Clayinfinity. Yeah, absolutely. There is a Facebook page, the Sydney Blood Bowl League, but reach out to Clayinfinity for the details, and the next season should be starting up in October. Yeah,
awesome. And of course, we actually at Down Under World Denizens want to do a segment called Around the Grounds, where we're talking about what's happening with Blood Bowl around the different states and territories of Australia. And so, George, this podcast is part of that. So, yeah, we're talking about New South Wales. Are you aware of other Blood Bowl leagues in New South Wales? Are there groups that come to Moab or come to Eucalyptus Bowl or trek down that you're aware of?
Yeah, look, every couple of tournaments we find new coaches that attend that have been playing their own sort of backyard league with a couple of mates. So as we find these coaches, we try and sort of integrate them into the Sydney Blood Bowl League and also the other tournaments that we're running across the city and the state. But in terms of formal leagues, to be honest, I'm not aware of anything else in Sydney. I know there is a league up in the Central Coast, and there was some conversations to try and combine the Central Coast League and the Sydney League. But yeah, in terms of Sydney, it's essentially the one big league.
I know the Wollongong League has kind of had an attempt at restarting since I left Wollongong in 2018. Scott Tate and Mick Thompson are down there, and I don't think there's anything formally happening yet, but there's constant talk. The only other league I'm aware of in New South Wales is in Port Macquarie, unless we count Tweed, which we're gonna call Queensland because it's close to the border. All right, I'm going to ask about Infinity Bowl. For those listeners who don't know what Infinity Bowl is, it is this crazy idea that you can run a Blood Bowl tournament over one 24-hour period. And so literally Blood Bowlers are playing Blood Bowl for 24 hours. I first was aware of it due to a South Australian tournament that ran, which was called the 24 Iron Man from memory, down in Adelaide. And I think there was a painting compartment to that, or a component where, if you weren't playing a game, you could paint miniatures and there was a prize for the best painted model or team or whatever it was at the time. But Clay Medyard was really keen to run one in Sydney. He ran the first one recently, and you attended, called Infinity Bowl. I love the logo. It was like the symbol for infinity, but had ghosts and whatever swirling in that sideways figure 8. Yeah, how did you find competing in a 24-hour marathon Blood Bowl event? And will you do it again in 2025?
Yeah, look, I fared a lot better than I expected, to be honest. Great experience. I'd definitely do it again. Again, I sort of surprised myself in terms of how I fared. But yeah, very, very different in the sense that you're not only playing against your opponents, you're also playing against yourself as well, trying to keep awake and focus and concentrating on the game. We did have a couple of casualties that weren't able to make it all through the day and the night. But other than that, look, it's still Blood Bowl, so Blood Bowl tournament, but it's amazing to think that we played 9 games at a tournament.
Yeah, it's cool. That's the same number as World Cup, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there a secret to pacing yourself and getting set up for the weekend, having a tactical nana nap the day before?
Look, I think what did it for me was that whole weekend. I just ate protein, so no carbs, and I think that really helped. To be honest, so I didn't have those sugar highs and lows.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it intrigues me. I'd be interested to attend at some point, but I think I'd need a day before to get ready and at least one day after to recover.
Oh yeah, definitely the recovery was definitely an issue. But yeah, look, I do recommend it. Really good experience.
And another tournament, a tournament you attended more recently was Eurobowl. Only happened a couple of weekends ago. How did you go?
Yeah, look, not too bad. Probably worse than I've done in recent years, but that's okay. Look, I did play up in table 2 and table 3, and as I mentioned before, I was leading the Kaz and the kill count going into the last round, only for Morg to botch it all up for me. I still end up getting most Kaz and most kills just on count back. I didn't take home the trophy, but good experience. Love Eucalyptus Bowl. It's the first tournament that I played at. I got my 10-year veterans badge as well at this Uke Bowl. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a great tournament, and it's good to see the numbers also increasing. From last year and the year before. But look, it's very competitive as well. We get James gets a lot of interstate travellers, and we had Sand Dune from New Zealand come over as well.
Yeah, I'd love to see more international visitors. We used to have Smeeborg, aka Paul Deacon, also come over from New Zealand. I'd love to get some other internationals to come and compete in Eucalyptus Bowl. It is a major. It is one of the bigger Blood Bowl events. And somebody I was talking to said they wanted to see that the Eucalyptus Bowl in 2025 will be its 20-year anniversary, and they'd love to see it crack the 100 mark, go triple digits. I reckon that's achievable. I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is achievable. I communicate with a lot of international coaches with regards to rule sets and merch and all that type of stuff. And there are a number of people that I've spoken to that are actually quite interested in coming to Uke Bowl next year.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think we reckon we can. And I was actually chatting to Millsy about this before we started recording, but there's this area of Blood Bowl where when you attend a tournament and there's a really young person at the tournament, that person adopts the title of the kid, and the kid is the young player that kind of often ends up down the bottom of the tables. But actually, the winner of Eucalyptus Bowl this year at one time was the kid, and it's Cullen Russell. He got it home with Orcs. I suspect he didn't adopt your approach of tossing the ball around.
No. I actually played Cullen table 3, round 5. He beat me 2-0. Morg double sculled on his ball carrier, but he played really well. I've played Cullen a couple of times. He's improved. He plays really well. He's got a conservative style, safe moves. He's really good, and it's good to see him win it.
Yeah, I think we called it actually when we were talking to James earlier. We mentioned that Cullen was a really good coach, and what do you know? So maybe Down Under World Denizens are prophesying or something. So yeah, maybe throw some results you want in the podcast and it might just come true. So that you still like Morg, even though he double sculled on you in a critical block on the ball carrier and failed to get your most Kaz. Man, talk about backstabbing you.
I know. Look, I keep punishing myself. I took Morg to the World Cup last year as well and triple sculled on me and pushing elves around. I don't know why I do it to myself. One more time. That's what I keep telling myself. One more time.
Yeah, that's it.
In saying that, I've actually won a tournament with Morg where he wouldn't roll anything less than 8s. And it was just destroying the opposition. Maybe I'm hoping that they'll have another tournament run like that. But I haven't seen it since.
It's always the
Yeah.
extremes that you remember, isn't it? It's
Yep.
the extremely well done and the extremely poorly done.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
The mediocrity in the
And-
middle is what you sort of forget and don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, and I guess, it's a combination. You've got that loner 4+ at play too, right? So if he does
Yeah.
do something wrong, it's harder to re-roll it.
Although first round at this year's Eurobowl, I actually matched up against a Snotling team with Morg. So with the Highlander rule, so we're both missing Morg, and we're both looking at each other very confused because he was obviously central to our game plan.
Was that Stratty?
No, that was Boba Fett.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Stratford, I think, was our highest placed Queenslander with Snotlings, Morgan, Hackflem.
Yep.
Yeah, so he
Yep.
did quite well. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Stunty King of Eucalyptus Bowl, which was Captain Prosecco, who we talked about in a previous episode of Down Under World Denizens, who came up to Cane Toad Cup. He actually won Stunty King with halflings. Mind you, maybe you could argue that he actually won with Griff because,
Yes.
I suppose winning with Griff with a different vehicle is always a different feel, but it's like different flavors of the same thing, right?
well, George talked about that earlier. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move off from Eurobowl and talk about the NAF tournament series. You've run both a 7s and an 11s tournament series. Can you fill our listeners in, first of all, what is a tournament series and what are you currently running or planning to run for 2025?
Yeah, so tournament series, so the NAF tournament series, there are two types. You've got an open and a closed. They run over a period of 12 months, or it's recommended it's 12 months, or between prescribed dates. So a closed series has predefined events, and you can't add or change the calendar of events. The open series allows you to add or subtract events as long as there's ample notice, for all participants or prospective participants. So I run an open series. I kicked off in 2020 with the Sydney Bowl 7 series, and at the time it was the first 7s only series, NAF approved 7s only series. Unfortunately, we had COVID, so we didn't get too far into it. When I relaunched it, I ran it as non-NAF approved in terms of the tournament series. It was 7s only. And then because of, I guess, there wasn't much else happening that year, it was just sort of post the lockdown. I also ran an 11 series, and the whole concept of playing individual tournaments and accruing points for an ultimate winner was quite exciting, and it was almost akin to a league. Most people say that league's the best way to play Blood Bowl. I don't necessarily disagree with that. And this seemed to be a really good medium between league play and tournament. So in 2023, I launched the Waratah Tournament Series, and that was a combination of 11s events, both 1 day, 2 day. There were some 7s events, and we also had a Dungeon Bowl event as well. And the purpose was to try and grow the community. There were new players coming to our tournaments. There were those that didn't really want to be too competitive but quite enjoyed the variants. We found the variants a really good vehicle to bring new coaches to 11s, and it gained quite a bit of popularity. So we've continued with that. This year's our second year. Now, in reality, does it make a difference if it's NAF approved or not? You might argue not. Now, we're not the first tournament series in Australia. The Western Australians and the Victorians, from memory, they set up their respective tournament series in about 2019. So the idea isn't new. But for me personally, I was really inspired by some of the tournament series that were running overseas, in particular Voodoo, and that's run in the southeast of the USA. And also there was a couple that took my interest in the UK. And it was really good just to see the hype around the series and how each tournament was able to then generate interest for the next tournament. They weren't individual events. So that's what really got me going. And we've grown since last year. And for next year, we are planning to run much the same. I'm questioning whether we include the variants. The variants are fun, but the series, I must admit, is getting a little bit more competitive, and it's also a vehicle for us in New South Wales, to use it as selection for the New South Wales team for the Aussie Bowl State Championship. But look, I still wouldn't mind including the sevens and the Dungeon Bowl, just to ensure that it caters for everyone. Just need to make sure that the points allocated to those events are appropriate.
I was going to say that was going to be my next question. Is it's like when you've got a series like this and you have a variant event like a sevens, which doesn't really lend itself to picking yourself for an 11s team, for a state team, or then you may have a tournament that's got 40 coaches and a tournament that's got 20 coaches. Can you really say the person that won the 20 coach tournament was better than the 40? Do you have a sliding scale perhaps?
Yeah, we do
for the series.
So this year, the number of ways we allocate points. So each tournament is tiered. So we've got tier 1 through to 3. Tier 3 are the variants. Tier 2 are those tournaments that are either 1 day or less than 20. So a 2-day tournament that's got less than 20 participants. The tier 1 tournaments are 2-day tournaments and 20 or more coaches. Eucalyptus Bowl, given that it is the Australian national, is a tier 1 tournament, but it has a slightly different point structure, which I'll get to in a minute. Every tournament then has points allocated to placings from 10 down to 1. Any coaches that place beyond 10th place get a minimum of 1 point. Eucalyptus Bowl starts from 20. So there are more points. The points are slightly biased towards Eucalyptus Bowl. On top of that, then we have bonus points allocated to coaches based on every 10 coaches that they beat. So the bigger the tournament, the more bonus points you can accrue. So there's an incentive there for TOs to promote their event and grow it. So by virtue of that, the bigger tournaments, there's more points available at the bigger tournaments. For the variants, there are limited points, but still you could come first in a variant and still get almost sort of equivalent points to sort of mid-table of a larger tournament. And that's something we'll look into next year. It hasn't made that much of a difference. Also to note, so we've got 9 tournaments in our current series, and the best 5 results are chosen. So there's an opportunity once you complete your 5, anything beyond 5, you're effectively topping up.
Yeah, and we're actually Down Under World Denizens are really keen to have a further chat with you about all this, because in breaking news, there's pretty much consensus that we want to run 2 separate tournament series up in Queensland in 2025, being that it's going to be the year once the Australian State Championships, Aussie State Championships is settled. We want to have some other incentive to get people along to earn points, not to earn a place in the team, because that will have been already finalised, but for the tournament series. So, a couple of us may reach out and chat to you further about that, and that's breaking news. 2 separate tournament series, and in fact, I've put my hand up to coordinate the 11s, and Millsy can't help himself. He's the variant king. Millsy's decided to go coordinator.
I have put my hand up to the 7s. Yeah.
So one of the things that's worked really well with us is we run 7s on one of the evenings. So either the Friday evening or the Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah. So for the New South Wales selection, the variants are excluded for the points tally.
Yeah, and I think that's what we want to do, is separate them. Now, George, we understand you're not just interested in Blood Bowl in Sydney itself or New South Wales itself. You're also well-travelled as a Blood Bowler. You've been to a World Cup. You mentioned that you took Morg and he triple sculled on you. But I want to just say personally, from all of us Blood Bowlers in Australia, thank you for finally coordinating a Eurobowl team to go and answer the call and representing Australia at Eurobowl. And I guess it's been fantastic that you've managed to get a team of 9 coaches, I believe.
8.
8, okay. And, I love the fact that it's in Greece, and you've already mentioned that you have some Greek heritage, and I think that's lovely. I love the fact that we are a very multicultural country, and so maybe are there family you're catching up with in Greece? Is that part of the reason why you're going?
No, absolutely not. No, so the reason I'm going is it's a bit of a hangover from the World Cup. Absolutely love the experience. It's a bucket list event. I'm definitely keen to do more World Cups and travel overseas to play Blood Bowl. But my my eldest is in year 9, and next year starting her senior years of high school, and the school's pretty strict in regards to extended leave. So it's effectively our last opportunity to go overseas until my eldest and the second finished their schooling, and had a great experience of the World Cup. It happens to be in Greece. I don't actually have any family overseas, and
That you know about.
Oh, that I know about. Yeah, correct. So, look, I asked around. I'd said to a number of people in the community, I'm happy to do all the organising. I'm a professional project manager, and that's what I do. I plan and I organise. Quite like it. Leave it to me. I'll do all the organising. Are you keen on sending forward a team to Eurobowl? And surprisingly, there was enough interest. Initially, I thought that it'd just be purely who's able and willing, but we had more than 8 answer the call. I did issue out an expression of interest. We had a couple of international coaches. So the way it works is that to be eligible for Eurobowl to play for a nation, minimum of 5 coaches need to be of appropriate nationality as per FIFA rules. So a citizen born in the country, or their parents and or grandparents born in said country. So there was a couple that reached out to me. One from Denmark, who actually happened to be part of the previous Eurobowls winning Denmark team, but happens to have a grandmother that was born in Australia, and a fellow from Malta, again, much the same sort of situation, a grandparent with an Australian passport. So look, we selected our 8 based on coach ranking and win percentages, and also their willingness to obviously travel and participate, practice, get involved with the merch. For those that know me, I like to merch up my events. So we're not just going overseas to play Blood Bowl. We're going to look good playing Blood Bowl as well, and we're going to take a whole bunch of merch with us.
Brilliant.
So yeah, no, it's been really good. A lot of work to plan for it, but we're expecting what I recall is about 30 countries participating in this year's Eurobowl. So that's a record. I've been informed by the organisers that we are not the meme team. There are others that they're expecting to take that crown. But the US are sending a team, the Canadians are sending a team, and some of the smaller European nations. Now, whilst we're not sending our best coaches, given the fact that there is an element of ableness and willingness.
Oh, for sure. And tyranny of distance plays into that.
Absolutely. But we're still taking a fairly solid team. So, look, I'm definitely not expecting us just to turn up and make up the numbers. I'd like to think that we will surprise a few nations, if not a few coaches.
Good.
Is France number 1 on your hit list?
Definitely to play against. I'd definitely love to play against the French, the Spanish, the English. I mean, we've played against a ton of Spanish coaches. Actually, you know what? I'm overplaying Spanish coaches. I've played enough of them at the World Cup. And the play styles are very different as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is really good to experience.
Come on, put a prediction in, mate. Whatever you say on Down Under World Denizens, there's a habit of coming true. So go on, put it out there.
In terms of how we're going to finish?
Yeah.
10th.
Top 10. Let's go top 10.
Top 10. Yep.
You've
nice.
heard it here first.
Yeah, that's
Top
it. That's
10.
it.
Yep.
That's a good goal. I think looking at the coaches you're sending, I think that's actually a pretty conservative prediction, actually. I think you'll certainly give a good run. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, I have a tendency to underestimate Blood Bowl coaches the world around, and I think there's some damn good teams that'll be fronting up, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these teams and coaches have really been putting in the practice, leading up to the event. They'll be taking it very seriously. And look, we're going there to play, but at the same time, we're there to enjoy the atmosphere. Love to catch up with a whole lot of international coaches that I've met, or at least chatted to over the years, and also met at the World Cup. So you're really looking forward to meet them again and catch up with them. Do a whole lot of trading with our merch. It was once stated to me that the Blood Bowl World Cup, which I'm guessing the Eurobowl is going to be very similar, is a celebration of Blood Bowl. So yeah, really looking forward to that environment.
Yeah. And I have a favour to ask. Probably our most communicative fan of Down Under World Denizens is Alistair Pring, who I believe resides in the UK. He said he's going to Eurobowl, and he wants one of our beach bowl pitches. Would it be all right if you're our pitch mule and ferry that along for him?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I've got some patches to trade with Alistair. So yeah, happy to mule over a pitch for him.
Fantastic. All right, final question, Wilts.
Okay, so for our listeners that aren't from Australia and New Zealand, there's going to be a bit of cultural heritage involved here. But you've helped formalise a rivalry between Australia and New Zealand in Blood Bowl specifically. What is it called, and how does it work?
So it's called the PAV. I reached out to the New Zealanders earlier this year, again as a result, a hangover of the World Cup. I asked the question: has there ever been any sort of consideration of a trans-Tasman series, tournament, event, etc., trans-Tasman Cup, an Anzac Cup, or something of the sort? The answer was no, but we started spitballing some ideas and trying to get a team from Australia and a team from New Zealand together to travel, we thought would be a little bit challenging. So in the end, we came up with the idea of a year-long challenge where the results of traveling Aussies or traveling Kiwis will be tallied together, and the nation with the highest result wins a trophy. That seemed fairly feasible. So those that are able and willing to travel, they're called the Raiders, and those playing against them are called the Defenders. So you might see some hashtags on some of my posts that say defend the PAV. So we brought a number of other people into a committee to pen this out. And within weeks, it was phenomenal, the effort that was put into this. Within weeks, we had a backstory that was written very narratively, in sort of like a Spike magazine style. There was a whole lot of data mining. There were games identified from 2003. So this challenge, this rivalry has gone back more than 20 years. And we've identified almost 500 games between Aussies and New Zealanders. And then after weeding out those that Aussies but may be living in New Zealand or another way around, we've compiled the results from over 20 years worth of games. So there's been 15, I guess, series being played out, 7-1 by Aussies, 7-1 by Kiwis, and a draw. As per similarly to the Ashes, if there is a draw, then the nation that holds the trophy retains it. And that year, Australia was holding the trophy. So technically speaking, Australia leads the series 8-7. Now, in terms of naming, there's a number of ideas: Trans-Tasman, Cup, Anzac, Bowl, etc. But there's nothing more questionable than the origins of the Pavlova, or the PAV. Both nations claim ownership of it, so it was decided, it was agreed on that this rivalry would be called the PAV. And for those that have seen the recent social media, they would have seen that the Pavlova trophy, that was recently revealed at Eucalyptus Bowl.
It does really look like a Pavlova. It really looks like somebody's just like spray painted it silver or something.
Well, sort of. It's a resin Pavlova. That's been quite literally that, sprayed silver. There is some controversy because part of the formalities is that the handing over ceremony for the previous year's winner will be at either Eucalyptus Bowl or the Greenstone Cup in Auckland. So we had Sand Dune over this year to accept and receive the PAV trophy, which he did, but then raised concern that this thing is fairly large and fairly bulky and hefty. Was going to be quite challenging to carry on a plane. So the PAV did not fly over the ditch.
So are we going to bring it to Aussie State Championships next year? Because, well, my understanding is that in breaking news, the Aussie State Championships in 2025, which I'm planning to go to, and so is Millsy, is actually it won't be an open running parallel. It will actually be Greenstone Cup running parallel to the Aussie State Champions. So that'll be.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll be the time for there to be the following year's discussion on who the winner is, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the New Zealanders won it last year, 15-12-12, and I think at the moment, to date, I think we're slightly ahead, but I do know that there will be some Aussie Raiders for some upcoming tournaments, and there's expectations of some Kiwi Raiders later on the year at Big V. So look, it's a bit of fun. We love our trans-Tasman rivalry. The backstory that was drafted by Claymore is brilliant. So if you get a chance, have a read of the charter and the backstory. It's written really comically, a lot of flavour to it. But yeah, look, anyone can get involved. So if you're able and willing and can travel and raid, fantastic. If not, when you attend a tournament and you're paired up against a Kiwi raider, defend the PAV.
Although you made Sand Dune come over to collect the PAV. Was that an error because he actually did quite well at Eucalyptus Bowl?
No, it wasn't so much an error.
Yeah, no, of course not. But he's a good coach in his own right, no doubt about it.
But yeah, top coach, yeah, absolutely, yeah, champion.
Hey, look, I mean, the actual trophy itself is absolutely magnificent. I will put up in our official Facebook group both photo of the PAV, which is magnificent. Well done. You've done an amazing job. And a link so you can actually have a read of what George just talked about with the charter and the backstory. And yeah, I'd love to have a good read of that myself.
And any final shout outs, George?
Look, just shout out to all the tournament organisers that make up the Waratah Tournament Series here in New South Wales. They do a fantastic job. We've got a variety of tournaments, each one with their own quirks, different rule sets. So, shout out to those guys. A lot of effort's gone into putting all this together, and as you can all appreciate, running individual tournaments has really helped grow the local Sydney and New South Wales tournament scene.
And Moab, I think, is the next tournament in that series. Is it one day sleigh, George? You want to give us a quick plug for the next tournament series?
No, it's one day sleigh. So one day sleigh, first week of September.
Yep.
In Gaimea.
Yep. Make sure you get along if you're in the region, or even if you're not. I hope there's some ACT Raiders there. Thanks very much, George. We really appreciate having you on Down Under World Denizens episode 4. We really look forward to seeing the Aussie lads get up in the top 10 in Eurobowl. Stay tuned for whether yet another one of our predictions comes true. Just wanted to also say thanks for being part of our Around the Grounds segment. It is something we're planning to do in Down Under World Denizens, is actually each year have somebody tell us about what's going on around each state and territory of Australia. We've actually talked.
We don't have to wait a whole year for that.
Well, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is each year we're going to go right round around the ground. So I'd love to hear whether there's any blood bowlers listening in from Tassie. I want to hear what's going on. We've got quite a lot of events lined up. I already had the WA guys, so yeah, they're super keen to get on. I wasn't even planning to recruit anybody from the ACT, but Alex McAuliffe already said, yeah, I'm keen. So we've got some around the ground segments coming up. Look forward to hearing some, particularly to promote the kind of Keystone tournaments of each state and territory as we go around the ground. So stay tuned for that segment. But we're moving on to another segment.
That's correct. We're back on to Deadset Legends. You might remember this episode from episode 1 where we went through Deadset Legends and brought back Hoshikomi. Now, in the meantime, since that episode has aired, I've actually done quite a lot of homework because I have some very sad news to announce about the Hoshikomi episode. The winner of the poll for who had the best Hoshikomi was Wilts.
Not just a little bit of a winner. He had a clear 15% margin over the rest of us.
Now, I'm sure if the poll had been cut off and closed earlier, then the results might have been different there, Millsy. But we'll try to make sure that it's not open for 3 months for the next one, and we'll see if there's a difference in the result.
Yeah, 3 days seems really good for me because I was in the lead after 3 days. But
also helped that only 10 people had listened to the podcast and voted at that point in time.
4 of those votes were mine, but who's counting?
Hey, look, I think let's not detract. Wilt's got 45% of the vote with his Hoshikomi, so that is definitely the winning Deadset legend, Hoshikomi. If you want to have him in a tournament, get in touch, and I'm sure we give our blessing to using his star player stats in your tournament.
His star player stats.
Shamelessly steal it. You don't need permission.
Well, you know what they say. Sometimes it's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask permission.
This is true. So anyway, moving on to our Deadset Legend for episode 4. we've decided to bring back someone from the original Star Players book, which is Dieter Hammerlash. Or if you talk to Babs, I think he says it's Dieter Hammer Slash.
Well, it's a debate, isn't it? The actual star player card in second edition clearly says Dieter Hammer Lash, but I never noticed it wasn't Dieter Hammer Slash. I always called him Dieter Hammer Slash, and I wasn't sure why. But Wilts, being the expert that he is on the rules, help me out. Wilts, take over. What did you discover?
I'm also a keen collector of miniatures past, so I spend a lot of time browsing through catalogs and such, and as with a lot of things in Games Workshop where they never consistently settle on only one answer, the catalogs have him listed as Hammer Slash in all of the ones that I've seen up to this point, but obviously Hammer Lash is on the card, and so you can have your own opinion from there.
Well, except this is the interesting thing. In Spike magazine number 9, which is the mixed race team Spike, in the mongrel horde, squad, yeah, the mongrel horde. He's listed there. He's player number 6 in the list. He's listed as a renegade human lineman, and he's clearly Dieter Hammer Slash. So is he Hammer Lash? Is he Hammer Slash?
Maybe they're cousins.
It could even be an imposter. We're never quite sure.
Ooh.
So that's what we're doing on this episode, is we're bringing back that Deadset Legend. So we are obsessed with bringing back the correct one. So it's Dieter Hammer Lash. I do have his stats from the original Star Players book. He had a movement of 4, a sprint of +1, so that equals a movement of 5. Had a strength of 4, an AG of 2, which nowadays would be 4+, a TS or throwing skill of -1, the cool or the catch, which -1, and an AV of 10. He also came with block level 3, catch level 2, and intercept level 2. So he's listed as being play number 12.
Yeah, but there's some interesting other things from second edition about Dieter. In particular, there was a mutation that players could end up with if they got a roll on the random mutation table. So Chaos Humans were one of the races that could roll on that random mutation. Interestingly, Skaven were also on that list. And one of the mutations was a mutation called Mace Tail. And if you had that, then you could attack an opponent with the Mace Tail, and you could actually attack an opponent up to 3 squares behind the player. And then you basically both coaches rolled a d6 and add your player's agility. And if the score for the player with Mace Tail is higher, then he knocks over the opponent to the ground, gets to make an armor roll, but it has a -1 penalty, so opposite of Mighty Blow. But if they're injured, then they get +1. So it's kind of a weird reverse Mighty Blow for armor, but normal Mighty Blow for injury. So yeah, weird skill. But yeah, I don't know why Dieter Hammerlash's star player card didn't have him with Mace Tail, but I would assume that's just an oversight and he should have had it.
Yeah, well, he's clearly pictured with a Mace Tail.
Maybe it's because the companion book came out after the Star Players book, so it wasn't around at the time.
It's possible.
This is possible as well. So listen, boys, in the interest of me winning, I'm going to put my Dieter Hammerlash in last place here for you. So let's hear from the 2 inferior Dieter Hammerlashes first. Who'd like to go first?
I think I'll go first, being that I won the last poll, so we'll have more time to rip mine apart and make fun of it for this episode.
Okay.
So I've gone for, I've got the model in front of me, but I've gone for a bit of a Chaos Warrior style stat line as a base model. And then I've added some skills and upgrades on top of him from there. He's got movement 5, which he always had. He's got strength 4. I've upgraded him to agility 3+ to match your modern Chaos Warriors and other sort of big guys that aren't super flash. I haven't given him a passing stat because I figure he's not going to be one that lets go of the ball if he gets his hands on it.
Oh, so just a dash there. Okay. Yep.
Just a passing stat of dash, and AV 10+. Instead of the 11+, it'd be a direct translation because I don't want him to be super powerful. I've given him block. I've given him monstrous mouth, which serves a similar purpose to catch. And if you look at his on the star player card, he's got a massive face.
Well, his face is instead of his chest, isn't it? Like
yeah, exactly.
He doesn't actually have a head. It's just a chest with the mouth and the face on it.
I've given him the monstrous mouth skill, and there's no real direct replacement for an intercept skill, and he doesn't really have very long legs on the model, so I'm not going to give him that skill just for the interception part, but I've given him Disturbing Presence as a sort of fill-in for that, because I figure if there's someone whose whole body is a face, there's got to be something very disturbing about looking at that.
Yep.
And
That's for sure.
I've given him the Prehensile Tail skill just to carry him through on the average turn. But my absolute favorite part of my build comes from his once per game star player skill. I'm calling it Tailspin. Once per game, when you activate D to Hammer Lash, he may gain the ball and chain special rule for that one turn only.
Nice.
Ooh, that's-
Nice.
He'll be,
That's
he'll be
brilliant.
tail slapping his way up the field. Whether he has the ball or not doesn't matter, because he can hold it in his monstrous mouth and slap people with his tail.
That's crazy. Does his stats change when he's acting like a ball and chain player? Like, does he suddenly go to strength 7 or something?
No, not at all. He can stay at strength 4. He's got block. He doesn't need anything else. He's good.
Okay, righto, yeah. So it just means he can effectively blitz a bunch of players.
Well, kind of, except it's not even a blitz, but you got to be careful. They'd be very easy to set up frenzy trap style blocks with that, where he's going to be blocking uphill potentially.
I like
So it's a bit of fun and a bit of flavour.
Yeah, but
without
once per
necessarily
game, you
being-
can mitigate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that's broken at all. What's his cost? I assume he has loaner 4+.
He'll have loaner 4+ like any other star player. Now, costing, I've done a lot of heavy thinking about this one, because just with the 4 base skills that I've put on him, a Chaos Warrior in a league would be worth 180. So obviously it's got to be more than that. I've been backwards and forwards a few times, and I'm aiming in for about 230k at the moment. He's not quite as
Ooh.
cool as Lord Borak with his strength 5, but
Yeah.
obviously he's better than just having an extra Chaos Warrior on the team.
Yeah, fair. All right, you ready for me to take over with my version?
Blow us away, Babs.
Yeah, hit us with Babs.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to go with Dieter Hammer Slash. I'm going to go with the version that we see appear in the Spike magazine. Now, we didn't mention what his stats were in that magazine, but in that magazine, they only have him as a standard 6'3", 3'8" player. Now, remember, there's no passing stat in Blood Bowl 2016, so there isn't one listed. And he comes with block, claws, and horns, and in brackets of the horns, it says weaponized tail. Now, I don't think that really sums up Dieter Hammer Slash at all. So I'm basically ignoring that version and going back to the 2nd edition card with my version. I based my Dieter off a Nurgle Bloater, which might be a bit of a controversial choice, because Nurgle is a team that have been in Blood Bowl for a long time. In fact, they featured in 1st edition, but that's the basis I'm using for the base of my Dieter Hammer Slash. And so I've got him with a stat line of movement 5, strength 4, agility 4+, passing of 6+, armor of 10+. So basically a bloater, a rotter bloater with extra movement. And so like the bloater, he's going to have disturbing presence. So wilts, we agree. I'm also giving him foul appearance and regeneration. I've also given him block. I've given him catch. I've given him on the ball to represent that intercept on the ball. I'm also giving him break tackle, loaner 4+, 185,000 Ks, and can only play for favoured of teams. So I've deliberately designed this Dieter Hammer Slash to be a player that deliberately shuts down passing on other teams. So if you're playing an elf team, his job is to interfere with the pass, hence on the ball. And that's why he's got catch, same thing. But also as kind of a running back, he's slow, but he's nuggety. So if he has the ball, good luck getting him off him. So I've given him a special action. My special action is called Mace Tail, harkening back to 2nd edition. And I've said once per drive, he can use this. And Dieter may use his Mace Tail instead of performing any other action. This acts as though Dieter has the stab trait and multiple block skill. So he can actually use his tail to attack a couple of people that are in his tackle zone.
And what was the costing for that one again, Babs?
185k. It
seems
seemed a
pretty
little
cheap.
low. It seemed a little low, but I compared him with Ivan the Animal Death Shroud, who's 190k, and it tracks. Like Ivan the Animal Death Shroud has movement 6, but armor 9+, but a similar number of skills. So I'm okay with that. I think I'm going to say 185k.
185. Well, as per usual, you're both all wrong. I'll let you know the real Dieter Hammerlash. Now, I do believe you've started from the wrong place. I've started from a Chaos Chosen blocker.
Yeah, well, I think that's what
So-
Wilts went with.
That's what I said. It's Chaos Warrior.
Well, Chaos Chosen blocker is the 2020 version. You should be picking me up on that one, Wilts. So anyway, so my Dita Hammerlash, movement 4, strength 4, agility 4+, passability 5+, and I've gone with the original AV of 10, which he has 11+. So this guy is going to be a tank. You're not getting him down. I've given him block. I've given him diving catch. Now, he did come with catch, but if you look at the back of the Star Players book, there's a line there that says, if a throw or catch is missed by Dita, he may then reattempt it. So I've given him diving catch to replicate that. Intercept level 2. I know he doesn't have it on the miniature, but I have given him very long legs just so he can get that +2 to intercepts. He obviously comes with loner 4+. In the, I believe it's the Star Players book, or it may even be the compendium. In the skill section, there's a skill called Jump Up. Below that, there's actually a picture of Dita under that heading. So I've actually given him the skill Jump Up.
Yeah, nice.
And-
He's actually absolutely sprinting it out in that picture. It's actually a really cool picture. I think it's Pete Nifton.
Yeah, it's a
Pete Nifton image.
Yeah, I can see a PK in the bottom right, left-hand corner there. Yeah, so just to emulate that, I've given him Jump Up. He does have a mace tail. We don't have mace tail in the skills now, and I wanted to give him something, but not overpowering. So I've actually given him Armbar. That if you're going to dodge away from this guy, he's got to possibly get that that +1 to your injury. He is, for mine, playing for favoured of Chaos Undivided only. I'm not a big fan of these Star Players going to all of these teams, so I've gone Chaos Undivided. I have got a special skill. I didn't come up with any new or nifty name, but Dita has the on-the-ball skill only when the opposition attempts to throw the ball. So he doesn't gain on the ball
not at the kickoff.
or kickoffs or anything, or throw-ins from the crowd. It's only from an opposition throw of the ball. And skilling up a Chaos blocker and plus and minus of all the skills and so on, he comes in at 190k.
190.
Yeah, rightio.
Righto.
Yeah, maybe my costing is too low.
So that's your winner there, ladies and gentlemen. You can put in a vote for Millsy's Dita Hammerlash. 190k for a tank. Who wouldn't want that? Armor 11+. Who's going to get him down?
Yeah, and look, we'll stick all the pictures and all the details up on our Facebook group. If you're not a member of that group, why don't you find us on Facebook and join up? Even if you're not a regular Facebook user, that's fine. You know, even if you only log on once a month to have a look after you listen to the podcast, that's fine by us. We don't mind. Yeah, we really appreciate you interacting with us on that medium. So yeah, and we'll put the poll up. Which Dita Hammerlash / Hammer Slash are you going to vote for? Which one is it going to be?
I'll get one final word in on the subject here. If you look at the model for Dita, he's got a very cool, obviously, mace tail. But if you look at Fungus the Loon from the 1994 edition, the ball on the end of his chain looks exactly like Dita's tail head. So it's not just a
It's the ball and
coincidence,
chain
ladies
for-
and gentlemen.
Well, what you reckon? You reckon
Well,
Fungus killed Dita and stole his tail for his ball and chain?
Oh, maybe.
You've heard it here first, folks.
Well, except he's still around, right? Like he's in that BB 2016 edition, so you know he's definitely still
Well, there's all
around.
sorts of necromantic magics and time travel happening in Blood Bowl. So
Well,
you never
exactly.
know.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about some kind of random storyline about how he's rushing for a touchdown, but the team worshipped Nuffle rather than whichever Chaos God he was aligned to, and so that Chaos God got jealous and petty, and it put him in a time warp, and he suddenly appeared post the NAF collapse or something crazy. You know, those kinds of things happen in the law.
Yeah, so that's it, guys. Let us know what you think. The poll will be up very shortly, and I look forward to winning your votes.
And yeah, I look forward to your own Dita Hammerlash or Hammer Slash stories. Yeah, we'd love to hear that. I have one in my personal collection. In fact, somebody loved the player so much they actually made a He-Man figurine of him, believe it or not.
Oh, that does look brilliant. Yes, I've seen that one.
All right, and we're back. And we want to just say to you, hey, look, while you might have heard Wilts and Millsy's my version of Dita Hammerlash or Hammer Slash, we want to ask you, what would you do if you were designing a star player? So I'm going to put up on our Facebook group a photos of the limited edition miniature that we have been given away for the Great Barrier Reef 2. Now, I've coined Mrs. Davy Jones. I've coined her as a star player. I haven't come up with any stats for her, though. The idea is obviously she's suitable to play as a variety of star players, but she's not a star player in her own right.
Not yet.
So let's run a comp. Let's run a competition. Yeah, let's. We want to hear from our listeners. We want our listeners to interact. So have a look at the miniature, and she's got tentacles for hair. She's got some vampiric teeth. What stats would you give her if she was a star player in her own right? And then Wilts, Millsy and I will vote on which version of the star player we think that the stat line is appropriate for, and we will send you a free copy of this limited edition miniature. If you're outside of Australia, you will have to pay for postage, but if you're within Australia, postage will be included in this prize. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Now, I'm just going, putting it on record out there that there's probably going to be a few people that come up with similar stats. So, if you want to ensure your chance of winning one of these miniatures, how about you include a bit of a backstory or, just something extra to go with it and so on. So, influence us judges to get yours across the line.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's a great idea. And hey, Millsy, speaking of having fantastic miniatures, do you want to talk briefly about Tats Tabletop and our next section?
Definitely. So I've alluded to this in a previous episode, but around the globe, there's been this rise in drafting events, and I've always liked the idea, but whilst I personally own nearly everything, not a lot of people have 100 plus miniatures that they can just sort of have on hand to draft out. So it got me thinking about how could I do that on maybe a smaller scale, if I got a few mates. So I come up with this idea, if there was me and 5 mates got together and we all built a GW team that had 12 miniatures in there, 6 linemen, 6 positionals, we could sort of assemble them up, put them on the table and sort of go around and draft from there. So I put it to the boys and everyone.
So Mills, are you gonna write up these rules so that anybody, any of our listeners can do this as their own variant? I like that spin. I like that spin.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a working document at the moment, but yeah, I'm definitely going to put it up there, and we'll put that on our Facebook page. So, if there's other people around the globe that want to do that and you don't have access to all of that and you've only got half a dozen mates in your league, it's just a fantastic little way of doing it. So, with that in mind, I showed it to the guys here and they've gone, yep, loving it. And then someone just said, what teams should I get and so on. And there was mention of, maybe we could get a sponsor. We're brand new to this podcast stuff. Maybe we can get a sponsor. And anyway, I was talking to Tats Tabletop, or Chris Tattersall, from Tats Tabletop, and just thanking him for the swag he'd sent for our league. And I mentioned this, and he said, mate, yeah, I'm on board. I'll give you everything you need. He come up with a list of 10 or 12 different teams that he was able to provide, and we had a look through them and picked out the ones we wanted. Tats has sent us through, or we actually collected when we were in Fumble in the Jungle. We collected 6 teams off him, and I think the minimum number of miniatures in one of the team was like 23 or something like that. They're all just massive teams. So having said that, there's going to be some upcoming episodes where we would like to give away some of these extra miniatures on behalf of Tats Tabletop and Down Under World Denizens. So, and
I have to say, I've done a little bit of work. I've done a little bit of work on my draft team today. I have my team primed. So I think for the only time ever, I'm ahead in painting.
We've got one
wonders never cease. I don't think that's going to stay for long. But I have to say, Tats Tabletop have done a really nice job with the sculpts. I love the fact that Chris knows his stuff. He plays the game. So these, when we said, look, give us 6 teams, mate, those 6 teams, they're really interesting in a whole bunch of different ways. And, I've really enjoyed looking at the models that I've got that I selected on the draft. And just, that not only do they showcase the value that they can add to a game like Blood Bowl, because they're completely different from the Games Workshop version, but they are really interesting models in their own right to paint. And I just really enjoyed also the fact that we've got a variety of different manufacturers that Tats Tabletop have got available. So if you're not sure what teams are available out there, I strongly recommend jump onto some of these third-party producers or printers websites and have a look at what they've got available because, I think we got some Punga, we got some Reiko Vendetta and some Brute Fun from memory. So really, really lovely looking stuff. I'm really looking forward to putting some paint on them above primer.
One step at a time, Babs.
Jumping onto that bandwagon there, like Babs said, I know Tats Tabletop have put up, I think it was this morning or today, they've just got a hold of a heap of Reiko Vendetta star players, and these look phenomenal. So if you're on Facebook, type in Tats Tabletop, TATS, and Tabletop, and have a look at what there's available. These are just amazing miniatures, and don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we actually did the draft last night, and now we're recording the intro sequence.
Well, we're about to cross to it, so that's here.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I will say that the majority of the time taken in that draft was taken up looking at each particular miniature and choosing which one you wanted. So we all got to choose a rod alignment, but which one did we choose? And there was so much detail in them, and everyone was looking for their own little niche. Yeah, it was fantastic. The draft. I'll just finish off with the draft process. So the way the draft I envisaged it was having 6 positionals and 6 linemen. So as you go around the table, you take 1 positional, 1 lineman, pass it on to the next person, and everybody gets a chance at being the first to draft a particular team and so on. At the end of it, you assemble all the 12 models and you go and play a league or whatever it is. So we've actually come up, because we like doing things differently and playing lots of different versions of sevens, we're actually going to make a round-robin sevens tournament. And I'll put rules in there of how we come up with the size of the roster and how much re-rolls cost and so on. And you get to, if you're looking at doing this yourself, you can come up with your own prices, but certainly have a look at ours first. And I
was going to say, we want to showcase some of the variants. You're the variant king. We want to show off some of these, similar to sevens aside, different variants of the game that exist. Because we don't just want to talk about Blood Bowl. We want to talk about all the different sports-themed fantasy games that are out there. And, Gutter Bowl is one of those. Sevens is one of those. Dungeon Bowl is one of those.
Yeah, then you've got Arena Bowl, which is sevens played on a Blitz Bowl pitch. I helped I wrote the rules for, and Babs tweaked for me at the end. Got Bridge Bowl played on a bridge. I've also got rules written up for those. So just doing things differently. That's what I love to do.
And I really liked your version of this draft. I know there's a few other podcasts out there that have drafts. But one of the things I really liked about on reflection, that I liked about your version is because you've limited the number of teams to the number of coaches. So there were 6 teams, 6 coaches involved in the draft, and everybody has to pick a positional and alignment from those rosters. It's a balancing effect. Like it actually balances out everybody's roster to be close to each other. So while there's still choices and there's still differences in there, I liked the fact that overall it was a relatively equitable affair. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really, really nicely done, Millsy. Mr. Variant King, well done, mate.
Okay, guys, we're here at the Down Under World Draft. You're listening to Millsy. I was lucky enough to get round 1 draft pick, so I got to choose first and randomly rolled up the Chaos Dwarves from Reiko Vendetta. And for my first round choice, I took the Bull Centaur, which was really hotly contested, and I can see some death stares from the other players when I got that. Other than that, I'm very happy with the rest of my picks. I got a Pestigore, a Saurus, an Amazon Blitzer, an Orc Blitzer, and a Dark Elf Blitzer. So I'm looking forward to going home now, creating a roster and putting a theme towards these. So that was my picks. I'll hand you over now to Zach. He was round 2.
Yeah, g'day, Zach here. Strategically placed next to Millsy because I knew he would actually rig this draw. So I got second pick and took the second Bull Centaur. Ended up also with another Saurus. I did get I think they're called Pestigores, the big Nurgle guy, but Bloater, sorry, and he's chucked in the sin bin because he's too slow. But also Orc Blitzer, Dark Elf Blitzer, Amazon Thrower, and then a whole lot of linesmen as well in there. So you should be able to create something good out of that. But I think Millsy and I have got the one out of left field, that Bull Centaur, which will go really, really well for us.
Hey, yeah, it's Irish Stew here. Pretty good at being unlucky. And I've probably got a little bit lucky tonight with my picks here with the draft. I've got myself a nice Lizardman Saurus there, good old blocker, and a skink linesman. First pick, I got, I think I took a Pestigore, did I?
No, you took the Saurus as your first.
I did take the Saurus, right.
You passed up the Croxigore.
I passed on the Crocs, probably a mistake. Dan's happy I did, but yeah, we went on and we got a Dark Elf Blitzer, Dark Elf lineman, Amazon thrower. Keen to see how that goes, and an Amazon linewoman, and that's probably pretty much going to be pretty close to my sevens team, but we'll have a play with it. Got a Chorf and a Hobgob, because I think the top of the table got the 2 Bull Centaurs. We didn't get a chance at that. And I got an amazing looking Orc Biggin that's wrestling a Squig, and an Orc lineman. That's pretty much it, I think. One thing I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Millennium Comics, by the way. One of the other guys might do it, but anyway, we're at Millennium Comics here in Rocky, and it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, pop culture store in Australia. Maybe even the Southern Hemisphere. It's huge. Check them out online. Rightio, I'll hand you over to Wilts.
Hey, this is Wilts. Just wanted to have a quick shout out to Millsy for actually putting the Croxigore on the table despite me telling him he shouldn't. And my only goal for the Sevens tournament is to prove to him why it should not have been available. I got that as a second pick. My first round pick was what was it? It was the Amazon Blitzer, because hit and run's a pretty strong ability, and getting that free extra square of movement's going to be strong. The one pick that I was hanging on for that managed to make it all the way around the table was the Dark Elf Runner, because between the Dark Elf Runner and the Dark Elf Linesman, that's about all the agility that you need on your team. I've got a skink there if I really need to run it through the guts, but I've got a good mix of agile and the one big guy on the table, so I'm keen to see how it rolls up.
Babs here. I rolled a 2, so I was second last. Fortunately for me, I rolled a 1, so I wasn't last in the pick order. However, when I saw those Bull Centaurs go early, I thought, right, what's my strategy going to be to combat those bulls? And I thought, well, I can't beat them in terms of having that speed strength combo, but I can just in pure strength. So every round I was trying to pick up a strength 4 player. So that's what I did. I picked up strength 4. Fortunately, Wilts picked Amazons, or got Amazons as his pick, which meant I could get one of the strength 4 Jaguar blockers. So that's going to be a key player on my team. And I was actually hoping I would be able to pick Dark Elves first, but I didn't. I ended up with Orcs first, but that was fine. Got a big one. And there is some debate as to whether all our players are going to have animosity or not to join the big one. But I do definitely think I have the biggest number of strength 4 positionals in my roster, and I'm hoping that'll get me home in the Sevens comp. It'll be really interesting to see. But I don't want to underplay the role of the line women skink things because you've got a Dark Elf in there, you've got an Amazon in there. Those players are actually reasonably good positionals in their own right. So I'm hoping they'll be able to back up my big strength 4 line and get it done in the Sevens.
Thanks, Babs. And I'm Warner, lucky last, which pretty much meant I had no chance of getting the one thing I wanted on my team, which was one of the Bull Centaurs. So instead, I ended up with a Chaos Dwarf blocker, a Pestigore, a Saurus. I did end up with one of the Amazon blockers as well, the Orc Thrower, and a Dark Elf Runner. So really looking forward to what I can come up with and what aesthetic and paint scheme I can come up for these guys on the table. Cheers.
So, guys, that's you've heard our draft picks now. So, from this point here, we're all going to go home. We're going to do up our roster. Some of us have already got an idea of what we want to start with. We'll get them together. We'll put them together in a coherent paint scheme, and it's. Oh well, we might get some people to vote on those. So that might be, we might put that up on the on our Facebook page. Get people to vote on a particular colour scheme, and then we'll go from there. Once we get them all painted up, we'll come back for a little round robin tournament, and we'll have some more updates as we go through that tournament.
And moving on to our next segment, which is Gone Whoop Whoop. Before we get on to the main part of this segment, we've got a small update courtesy of Alistair Pring regarding the Southstorm Squids. In the Almanac from the 2016 edition, there was an update about the Southstorm Squids that they were subject to a violent takeover by fishmen, which only goes to show that it makes perfect sense that Keirath Craig and I's Corsairs team had to go underwater to play against them.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, Alistair. We want to say thank you for giving us that little bit of official info that we didn't have. That looks like they were definitely sea elves, but now they are not.
Now they're definitely fish. So the next team we're going to be looking at this week is the Kishargo Werebears. Now, Babs, you've been playing the longest since second edition. You want to give us a bit more information about them?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of debate out there about Kishargo, and in fact, there's a lot of fan-based stuff out there that is frankly wrong. So I thought we'd dive into this. Who are the Kishargo Werebears? They're one of the original teams. They actually were in first edition Blood Bowl. Now, first thing I want you to know is Kishargo. The Kishargo Werebears are a good example of the kind of team names that Blood Bowl is about. That is, it is a parody, a play on words of an NFL team. The NFL team that they're parodying is, of course, the Chicago Bears, which they've played on words. They've turned it into a spoonerism. They've switched it around to Kishargo from Chicago, and instead of being the Bears, it's the Werebears. Now, I've been thinking about this, actually, and Blood Bowl has one slight problem in that when you see the name the Kishargo Werebears, you might think that all the team players are werebears. But actually, I'm not sure that that's the case. Now, while it is true that some Blood Bowl teams have their name describing the players, like the Oldheim Ogres or the Cragen Counts, in both cases describe the players, you have other teams where that's not true. Certainly the Elfheim Eagles are certainly not made out of eagles. You've got these teams that just have a name. The Dark Side Cowboys, while they're dark elves, I don't think they're cowboys. So you've got these slight dichotomy where sometimes the team name is literally just describing a mascot or something that describes an element of the team, but isn't actually the type of player on the team. So I think that's the case of the Kishargo Werebears. They did have were players. We do know that. Both in first edition and second edition, there were werewolf teams. And that is that in both first and second edition, you could field werewolf players who must take to the pitch in their lineman form, and they had stats for their lineman form. And then certainly in second edition, to convert into the werewolf, they had to actually go prone voluntarily, do nothing else that action, and then they'd be writhing around on the pitch, converting into their werewolf form or their wolf form. Interestingly, that's the only stats that we have for a werewolf team is both the human lineman and their wolf form. But there is a little NAF facts bubble in the bottom of second edition, which actually talks about which kind of were-being or which kind of lycanthrope best make Blood Bowl players. And there's some debate, and it specifically talks about werewolves, of course, were-cats and were-bears and their different strengths. Yeah, it's not quite clear whether there were actually werebears on the Kishargo Werebears, but in one paragraph in second edition, under the werewolf team, it does specifically say that the Kishargo Werebears showed what could be done with a talented squad and a season of obedience training. Now, when I think obedience training, I think the whole play on words between werewolves and dogs, and not so much about, I don't know about obedience training for bears, just saying.
I don't know. Bears are still canid creatures when you get right down to the bottom of it, so they are distantly related to dogs. Maybe that's an unintended extra layer that wasn't at the top of people's heads when they were coming up with it, but it is there.
Yeah, well, the other thing is what seems true is that the Kishargo Werebears don't seem to currently exist in the lore. They seem to have collapsed about the time of the NAF collapsing in the lore. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they collapsed. Wilts, you want to talk about, the longest game played at the point of the Did You Know?
Yes, so the longest game ever played in Blood Bowl was finally abandoned after 19 days when the remaining members of each team killed each other in a mad scramble for the ball. The Kishargo Werebears versus the Darkside Cowboys Dark Elf team. The final score was 2-2, match abandoned due to having no players remaining. So it was first originally published in Death Zone first edition, and I believe it's been republished in second edition at the very least, in one of the NAF Did You Knows.
And there's a reason for that kind of fun fact, and that's because of the way the game's played in first and second edition. Millsy, do you remember how a game was finished in second edition?
Second edition, I believe it was the first to score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and so a game could theoretically go for 19 days if nobody had scored 3 touchdowns. I think it was a bit of a joking comment on the fact there was this flaw to the game that I know Jervis Johnson was really keen to fix for third edition. All right, so interestingly, the player, the metal miniature that you can get in second edition Blood Bowl is on the slaughter base. It doesn't actually say Wilhelm or Cheney. It just says werewolf. And while it's a miniature that most people recognise as being the second edition Wilhelm Cheney star player, it actually, I think the idea was that miniature could be used when somebody was playing a werewolf team, and when your human player is voluntarily placed prone, you'd switch models with the werewolf model. I think that was the way it was designed to work. Yeah, really interesting. So, a couple of people have asked me, are the Kishargo Werebears Norse? Are they humans? Well, I think the correct answer is they're lycanthropes. Now, certainly we don't have a lot of information on the Kishargo Werebears, although I think they also managed to turn up in one of the records of, in one of the Blood Bowls or Spikes or Chaos Cups or something. What I'm saying is, if they can bring the gnome team back, might we see a lycanthrope team? What do we think?
It'd make things more interesting if they did.
I'd be all for it.
Well, in one sense, they've got more data than the gnomes ever did. They actually were a team, both in first edition and second edition. We have cardboard standees in first edition for the werewolf team.
Outstanding.
Yeah, during my research for this, I was trolling back through Talk Fantasy Football or Talk Blood Bowl and looking at some of the threads in the posts there. And I know that at one stage, Tom Anders was trying to figure out a way to get them to fit into third edition. Now, obviously, that didn't happen, but it's been on the minds of people for quite a long time.
And some of the great teams we have today didn't initially show up in the third edition Blood Bowl and only came out of the woodwork later. The All Ogre team is an example of that, and another team is the Nurgle team. Were both in first edition and second edition, disappeared, didn't really come back. In fact, I don't even think the Nurgle team really showed up in second edition other than a star player or two. But then in fifth edition, bang, it was back. So, a lycanthrope team.
So you're saying there's hope for Slan?
Oh, mate, I'm saying there's more than hope for Slan.
Oh, look, I have actually listened to 3 Die Block. Have just recently had an interview with Jervis Johnson, and Jervis goes on record as saying if he was in charge, he would put them straight back in. So it's like, come on. What more impetus than the godfather of Blood Bowl saying Slan should be in there?
Yes. Take that, 3 Die Block. Hey, speaking of branching out, one of the things we're really keen to do at Down Under World Denizens is actually provide for you, our listeners. And we thought, look, if you're really passionate about Down Under World Denizens, how about thinking about some merchandise? How about, having shirts and some other things available? And so I've gone down that rabbit hole. I've had a good look, and I think we've found a way that we can do this. We can produce some really cool merch, not just with our logo for our podcast, but maybe some slogans and things that would be appropriate for a sports-themed tabletop game. And so I wanted to just jump out here and say, hey, if you're a company that is involved in this hobby of ours, why don't you think about partnering with us and being a sponsor of Down Under World Denizens? And in return, we can actually make sure that your logo can appear on some of this merchandise. So, yeah, I'm actually asking for cash sponsorship. I'm asking for some companies out there. If you're interested in associating with our quality brand, as young as it is, have a think about whether you would like your brand on some really cool logos and slogans and other merchandise that we're planning to produce coming up. And one of the criteria we decided that we wanted in Down Under World Denizens is we've got to produce some Aussie merch, right? And what could be more Aussie than a pair of thongs?
Can you please explain that for our American listeners there, Babs? what a pair of thongs here is in Australia.
Yeah. We're not talking about underwear.
Our American viewers might know them as flip-flops.
Oh, and our friends from across the dips, yeah, they'll know them as jandals.
Yeah, they'd call them jandals.
Yeah, so we're multicultural here.
But what could be more ochre than that? All right, now look, we're jam packed. You know, we got lots of stuff coming up in episodes. Now we talk about merch, we're talking about all kinds of other things. But yeah, we've talked about some amazing variants. This draft was going to show up in a few more episodes. So thanks again to Tats Tabletop. If you want to listen in, one of the things I discovered recently is that there was a Kickstarter by Cool Mini or Not on a board game called Chaos Ball. Now, I knew a tiny smidge about Chaos Ball, but not a lot. And when the Kickstarter launched, I think a bunch of companies actually decided to jump on that Kickstarter and get the copy of this board game. You know, Cool Mini or Not produce all kinds of games, so they're quite a reputable company. Chaos Ball came out, and I think there was something like 12 expansions for it in terms of other teams. Well, the original box set, I managed to track down in Australia for under $40 dues. So, you know, I think it was $39.95. And I thought, mate, I can't resist. Sports-themed miniature board games for under $40. What's not to love about that? And it comes with a ridiculous number of miniatures. So I'm just saying to any of our listeners out there, hey, why don't you look up this Chaos Ball, Chaos with a K. The miniatures probably are a little mono pose in terms of there's really only 2 miniatures per team, but you get 6 of each or something. So, yeah, I'm really keen to give it a whirl. I'm keen to play some Chaos Ball in an episode coming up.
Absolutely.
And it can play up to 4-player. So what's not to love about that?
Sign me up.
Yeah, and I think the miniatures are good enough quality, at least, that they don't have freebooters, they don't have star players, but they have something that's an equivalent. And I think you could easily rebase them. You could pull them off their current base, stick them on a Blood Bowl base, and they'd be appropriate for something like Blitz Bowl or Blood Bowl.
Or the other way around, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I would guess you could use Blood Bowl miniatures for Chaos Ball. I think the bases are designed that they're unique to each team. So they're coloured and they have a geometric shape to them that's unique.
Just keeps things immediately obvious at a glance. Makes it faster and fun action.
Yeah, well, this brings us to the end of episode 4. Is there any final thoughts, final comments, or sign-offs? What do we want to say, guys?
Well, I don't know where this is going to go, but I was going to tell people about spoonerisms and how a spoonerism is when you switch over the initial sounds or syllables of a word. So like Kishargo is Chicago. So I was going to tell people about the only spoonerism that I know is a Terry fail about Rindasella. Now, if you haven't heard the Terry fail of Rindasella, I'll let you know how it goes. So Rindasella went to a bouncy fall and she lell him with a prance some hints. And when the clock struck midnight, she ran down the stairs and slopped the dripper.
Awesome.
Well done, Milsey.
So I do it with my kids at school all the time. I go, come on, boys and girls. Boys and girls? Yeah, boys and girls. And then I just play up and do that with them, yeah. One of the things, like Kishargo being a spoonerism, it's really easy to use spoonerisms when you're wanting to name your teams or even your players. So, that's something that our listeners can do certainly at any stage. If they've got a team or their favourite local team, is just switch that into a spoonerism and there you go, you've got your team name.
Well, that's about it for episode 4. Just wanted to say thank you so much for listening in once again. Hey, next time we're going to record, I'm pretty sure we're going to be live on a tropical island. What's not to love about that? That's going to be brilliant. I just want to say, hey, guys, don't forget it's not too late. Get your tri-corner hat on, get your Buccaneers on, get out to Great Barrier Biff and Beach Party Rumble. I will see you there.
And this is Millsy saying, win or the casualty bin.
And this has been Wilts, and we've got some skulls to take home.
Down Under World Denizens discusses games, workshops, games and products such as Blood Bowl, Gutter Bowl, Dungeon Bowl and Crunch. We also discuss other fantasy football board games and concepts from other companies, such as Dread Ball, Guild Ball, Grind, Elf Ball, Myth and Goal, Blitz Bowl, Chaos Ball, Monsters of the Midway, and Feud Ball. We discuss products and services such as miniatures or software made by producers suitable for several of these board games. Games Workshop terms and conditions in point 2.1 state they grant the user the non-exclusive right to use their authorised intellectual property for broadcasting and other media-related activities such as commentary and opinion pieces, blogs, and other similar informational and descriptive purposes. Down Under World Denizens respects and honours these terms. That's brilliant. Is there anything you wanted to add, Wilts? You've been pretty quiet.
No, it's all right.
You
guys are covering it all pretty well.
I think he says it all with I drafted a Croxagore.
I told you it was a mistake. I'm going to prove it to you, but that's already in the commentary we recorded last night.
Bring it on, big fella.
Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion that my team is going to be really, really good for 11s and maybe not so good for 7s, but we'll just see.
Yeah, I've looked at 11s and 7s with my roster. One thing Dan did say is he only has one player above strength 3, which is that Croxagore.
Yeah.
It's the only
Whereas
player
I've done almost the opposite. You know, I've got as many strength 4 players as I can get my hands on.
Yeah, which is 4. It could have been 5 if someone hadn't been hogging all those bull centaurs. But for the purpose of the 7s, it'd be pointless to have 5 of them because you couldn't use them all.
Yeah.
And we are live here at Grimm's Gaming for round 2 of Grimm's Open Blood Bowl League, the Gobble. So we're just having a chat here with Ryu.
Hello.
Ryu, let us know, what are you playing and how's it going?
We're playing the Snotlings and the casualties are very acceptable. We do not care about anyone who is dying here.
Yes, spoken like a true Snotling coach. Let's move on around down to table 2. And I can see Jack and Damo here. Jack, how's it going in your match so far?
Do you want to be there?
It could be going better. It's a whole lot of nothing leading into a whole lot of nothing.
Maybe you shouldn't have done that.
And let's speak to the winner of last season's league. And Damo here is with his the Jade Tikis, which he actually won for coming first place in that league. How's it going?
Oh, they're going better in their second game. I managed to knock out 2 corn players, but to the I've lost one Noblar, so we're looking good going into round 3.
No worries. Keep it up, guys.